Well, let's start with works. A piece of paper with the design printed in my hand, and I'm starting to search for the material being suitable for the longest components. Beach is waiting and getting dry, although it was already very dry. Temperature here in the workshop is low, especially on weekends. I'm marking on the length. I perform initial cuts usually with a hand saw. Sometimes, on the floor. Sometimes on a trolley with heating fuel. Only to cut it to the size. The material is 55 mm thick. So unfortunately, I need to cut it twice. I got used to this small saw so much that it is difficult to put it away in favor of some other heavier device. Now the planing machine. A few millimeters must be taken. It's quite difficult to move it, so I'm supporting myself with a push stick attached by the end of the board. One hand may press the board to the table and the other one push. At the width of 200 to 300 mm and more, it's difficult to move when the knife enters the wood. Hands may slide, and such push stick is the most useful. In the future, I will make such push stick all made of wood. Such material is safer than the PLA prints. That's quite cheap filament. Edgewise planing of only one part. As the other one will be cut to the size. The next step is the planing machine and leveling off the other side of the bulge. Some are less or more belled. Beach likes to ripple and turn. Some boards were 55 mm thick. But sometimes it was even difficult to obtain 45 mm. The collection must be much larger so that they are flat on both sides. Many millimeters become shavings. A pile of sawdust is created and may be used as heating fuel. Now, the saw and I'm cutting along. At first, it's always faster than planing by a few suffer smile. The next step is already cutting across the width. You know how I dislike these small parts that are sometimes cut. I see that I'm leaving too little allowance, and these micro elements that are cut can fly over the workshop pretty well. And after cutting on the saw, the next process is the planing machine, thicknessing machine. Intentionally, I used a wide shot to show advantage of solo machines over combi machine. When we have all machines next to each other, the work goes smoothly. Pallet jack is being used. I have 2 pallets that are getting dry, so I cannot place them on the shelves. That's why I need to move them sometimes, as there's not enough space. Thicknessing machine and everything is done. Process of gluing. I remember that my camera unfortunately turned off, but well. Here I'm only tightening. New clamps KR Revo have the option with tightening by the Allen key. Sometimes I'm not strong enough. Smile. It was glued, and on the next day I started from the planing machine, then the thicknessing machine. These will be the legs. Glue on 2x45 of them. So the legs will be within 90 mm thick. We're going to the thicknessing machine, and here 1 to 2 slides and we've the beautiful poles finished. You can see after planing how it's glued, whether the seam is visible or not. I'm cutting to the precise size, because here nothing will change. I had to take off the cover, as the material overlaps. Although it's 102 mm, the disc is used at maximum. Sometimes I use a waste material behind to prevent from extractions, and sometimes I don't. Now, the whole series of actions on Pantorouter to make bungs and slots. Look at the 2 red templates screwed to the plywood. Here I made my own double template and it will work out. Large 12 mm slots are done. They're parallel to each other if, of course, the template will be correct. Making millings on the other side is easy. We're changing the bumpers. All are set. It's enough to mill and 1 foot is ready. So, 4 slots in one of those elements are done. Now, the bungs will be made. We have a vertical pole. The template is left as it was. I'm changing only the finger into the bearing which was printed by me. So it's a 3D bearing. It has a specific diameter. Now, the production of shavings and sawdust. But most of them ends up in the vacuum cleaner. I was curious how it would look like. I did tests before, but there is no option of a mistake. If you make the bung and the slot according to one template, then it has to fit. Here I had a difficulty because I did my own template from 2 original ones. so it was the issue of good setting and screwing. The moment of truth. It's made tight. When I bevel the bung's edges, then it will go in well. The slot is made approximately 5 mm deeper than the bung, so there will be space for glue and tightening. Now, the crossbar of legs, and here the template is changed. Two bungs will be made in a serial arrangement. The element was approximately 250 mm, so the milling is fair. Large collection. But on this machine you can work without any problem. I would have to prepare larger templates because it's a pity to collect so much material. The baseline thickness is 40 mm and I'm making from this material a bung. Approximately 13 mm thick. We are collecting a lot of it, and to tell you the truth, the bung for the material 40 mm may be 30 mm. This is how the leg has been made, to which we will attach the element from the previous shot. Now I will make two slots. This is the issue of setting. There's a spike, I showed it in some video, which we're inserting instead of the cutter, and then we're able to set perfectly and reach the point marked with a pencil on the processed material. If you reach it, you're setting it in 2 axes, and the rest is done by the Pantorouter mechanism. I can see that the cutter is getting burned a bit. I need to wash it, and surely I will send it somewhere for wetting. It has already served for a long time. Now, a few slides on the grinder. It should be sanded before I assemble it. I tried to treat the edges, 3 to 4 moves, with a plane. Such microphase is sufficient to add aesthetic values and protect the wood with a sharp phase against visible damaging. Now, the moment of assembly. Aha! Take a file in your hand, to bevel the bungs, then they enter better the slots. It's done tight, maybe too much. I should leave more space for the glue. You can see how hard it's for me to squeeze it. Of course, the clamps are strong so they will handle. We have the leg and the crossbar. I'm trying to take the glue immediately, as later on I would have unnecessary work. Finishing will be natural, wax or oil, so I don't want the glue to discolor the beach. The legs are connected with the crossbar, and now everything is inserted into the foot. Now 4 bungs must be inserted into the slots, a few clamps to help me. I can see that I'm undressing, so it must be hot. A hammer will not help here. I need a clamp and a screw. The next element. Before, I made a foot and now the board which will be placed under the desktop. Everything into the clamps. I have seen that with this thickness it must be controlled, as the clamps can camber. Certainly, one clamp on one side and the other one on the other side, then it's tightened better. I set the clamps on both sides. Then there is no cracks, and this is the point. These two last clamps are not required, but I wanted to tighten and get rid of visible cracks. The next thing is two slots for the following crossbar. For the third leg, you can see what is inserted into the Pantorouter. A gigantic element. I was milling in the center, so this solid beach was not overbalancing the machine, it was only tightening it vertically. I've been wondering whether it resists or not. The legs were approximately 15 to 20 kilograms. It worked out. I always use two clamps for safety reasons. It's the leg number 3. Small cuts, and I'm inserting the crossbar between this double and single leg, and I hope that it will match. It's well known that I always make some tests. I wouldn't dare to tighten the glue and only check. Here, I'm taking my measure. At the end of the video I'll tell you what has happened, as I knew that something was wrong. But I was curious what would happen after connecting. All is assembled. I put it on the floor. Plywood on the floor and one sheet must be straight. I loaded it down with a bench and I checked if it was straight or not. There's an issue of connecting legs with the desktop. I decided to use fixing elements. Brilliant fat which relieves my poor back. I came under the desktop, lifted, left, and that's it. Now I'm making drillings for the fixing elements. I'm using the doweling jig muffle. 2 fixing elements 12 mm from the edge. Beautiful positioning. There's no easier way. It's not possible that it moves to the sides, then. The next drillings to the same lines. Great thing. Again, fat is coming. I'm putting the desktop on the fixing elements. I'm tightening and it's done. The next stage of work is completed and the next kilograms are added. I'm able to incline it to both sides, but if I wanted to lift it, I would have a problem. A question for you. Should I add rubber or leather from the bottom? See, it's moving. Then it'll be more difficult to move it, for sure. One thing to be explained. We should not trust machines completely. Sometimes we should check the angles. I have not checked and then it was hard. Now everything is repaired. But you've seen when I was putting the leg on the Pantorouter. I put too much load and one of the slots moved a bit, and after the assembly of the leg, there was a difference. I had to put some efforts. Thin the bungs to be able to turn in the slot. One more thing which was not in the video, but I'm explaining now. Here we've 2 holes and 4 screws from the bottom. Because when I send it to Germany, the desktop will be flat and legs also will be flat. Then only the legs need to be combined. The desktop needs to be placed and screwed from the bottom. That's it for today. In the video's description you've also a link to Lake Erie where all the plan of this workshop furniture is from this bench. If you download the plan, you'll see the difference. I've already added my material. It makes no sense for me to plane this beautiful beach and change it into shaving. I decided to glue the legs. Make them more massive to make the bench even heavier. Thank you for your activity, getting bigger. I always wait for its smile comments, like, dislike. Remember, a bell informs on new videos. That's it. See you in a few days. This time I'll make this clamp front-wise.